What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? This is the Christian Hannah Horror Show. We are here live and in color. I've got a very special guest with me today. Let me intro this guy. This is the guy that lets me know everything Friday the 13th. He is my guy. When I have a question, when is this coming out? When is this getting released? What's going on with this? This is the guy. This is Baldy Jack with me today. Baldy Jack, how are you doing?
Well, how are you doing, Christian? I mean, I'm doing all right. Let's say I'm doing swell.
You're doing swell.
Yeah.
So, for the people joining in, this is the Friday the 13th special, and I thought if I'm going to do a Friday the 13th special, there is absolutely nobody better to do the Friday the 13th special with than the one and only Baldy Jack, the man who is unequivocally the Friday the 13th guy to me. So, we're going to get into some topics. We're going to talk about the lawsuit, the dreaded lawsuit. We're going to talk about the game, the future of the game. We're going to talk
Oh,
about anything Friday the 13th. We're going to talk about NECA stuff from Friday the 13th. And while I'm starting to get this rolling, let me get the chat pulled up so I can see who we have. With us today. So here we go. Let me get the chat pulled up, Baldy, and then we'll get into this. The first thing I want to talk about is probably going to be the lawsuit, because the lawsuit is getting real nasty, and
it's unbelievable.
okay, so we got Puckett. Good evening there, Hannah. Hope all is well. And Juicy J Movies. Happy Friday the 13th. Well, it's not. It isn't Friday. Today's not Friday the 13th, is it?
No, there won't be a Friday 13th until sometime by next year, I believe.
Okay. Okay, so we got people in, guys. So, Baldy, let's get into this. So, the Friday the 13th lawsuit. The one thing I know that's going on right now is the battle. Obviously, it seems like Victor has got his hands, so to speak, on the title of Friday the 13th in America. Is that the way you understand it?
Well, the rights that he has is like the script to the original. That's, in the U.S. and everything. So if Cunningham wanted to do something, that'd have to be outside the U.S. Because the title Friday the 13th, it was Sean's idea originally, and
Right.
It's really hard to say where the title's going.
Here's
something that he could get. Other than that, I mean, besides him owning, the cop scene, with the guy on the motorcycle, right. That's the only thing that he doesn't have.
Yeah.
But yeah, the title, I'm not 100% sure if he gets it or not. Although supposedly they're trying to do a movie.
That's what I read too.
Yeah, there's that rumor about Friday 13th, the beginning. That you heard about it.
Right.
It's supposed to be like a prequel before the events of the first film, but it's kind of like as Jason's growing up per se.
Right. I guess this is my question, Baldy. When it comes to the title, like you said, and this is still all ambiguous. Victor owns his script, right?
Yeah, he owns his script.
What's the title of his script?
Because wasn't it originally
Friday
like?
The 13th.
It is Friday 13th technically.
That's what I'm getting at. That's where it gets sticky. Now, the character of Jason. This is even more. Just kind of shades of gray, not black and white. The producers from Horror Inc. They mentioned, hey, we're still exploring many rights that we can do with the hockey mask killer. They never said with Jason. So I guess it really is still.
It's like the name's supposed to stick.
But can you copyright a name? Like, that's what I'm confused about.
I don't think a name would be copyrighted.
Yeah. All in all, I think this lawsuit is still got a lot to.
It could last for another couple months, maybe a year. It's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, and I don't know, man. I'm worried that.
For, another couple months, maybe a year.
I'm worried that everything's gonna end up in limbo, and basically this person's gonna own this, and this person's gonna own this, and then you really can't have a movie because.
Yeah, because different people will own different stuff. That's kind of the problem.
Yeah.
I mean, if you take a look at, say Child's Play, for example, how MGM owns, the title to the franchise. So the only
Right.
thing they can do is make a movie that's kind of like a ripoff of, you know, Chucky and, you know, Charles Lee Ray, with they're having the idea of an AI bot, but they're calling the doll Buddy, you know? Like, you can tell that the box is clearly the Chucky box. You know, just that.
It looks exactly the same.
Yeah.
It looks identical.
Yeah. It's just that, you know, it's the doll that is slightly changed and renamed and whatnot. So it's like, especially the idea of doing a reboot or remake per se, but then you have the current series still going on, planning to do a, you know, a TV show, you know, with Don Mancini. Yeah, it's like really weird.
How do you feel about them going to TV for the, you know, the Don Mancini era? I have concerns, dude, because look,
I mean, it could end up like Ash versus Evil Dead almost.
I mean, look, dude. Here's the thing. Nobody's going to pay for Showtime to watch Child's Play. I mean, let's call it. If they survive Baldy, this is what I think they should do. I mean, honestly, and I've said this in multiple videos. If they can get on Netflix, because the world uses Netflix. I mean, the world. If they can get on Netflix, or if they can film a season. I mean, honestly, if they can just film a whole season and then release it on video. Because look, dude, cable is a dying art. I mean, I got rid of cable like a year ago. I got Hulu now. I don't even use cable. I mean, I have live TV, but I'll be damned if I ever use it. And I'm telling you, man, it's just I'm not a fan of them going to a television series. I'm really not, because it's just how much. I don't know. I think the Curse of Chucky was really successful. You brought the character back, but Don was able to, you know, get casual people interested in it. Oh, Chucky, yeah, I remember Chucky, but he also was able to satisfy the original fans, because he basically tied the whole series more or less in there, you know. Cult of Chucky got pretty
scary roots.
Yeah.
You know,
and Cult of Chucky got kind of,
I mean, yes.
Cult of Chucky got wild. Cult of Chucky got wild, but I don't know. I mean, it still was pretty darn good. I enjoyed it. It was a pretty film. I like the way it looked, but
I mean, Cult of Chucky,
I don't know.
It started out like very, like, to me, like Cult of Chucky, it started out very smooth and nice, but then towards like somewhere, I want to say towards the halfway mark, it started to feel just a little slow with the way the movie went.
Yeah, I can see that for sure. I guess we'll find out. But as far as the remake goes, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't excited for the remake. I say excited. I'm anxious to see it. It sounds like somebody in the comment section of my video kind of brought this up to me, that it seems like they are trying to use a little bit of the original idea that Don wrote in his script. Like, they were called Buddy Dolls in his original script.
Oh yeah.
But I think the name of his movie was called Blood Buddies, and the doll was supposed to come alive because the kid cuts his hand or something, and blood gets in the doll. It was kind of hokey, to be honest with you. I'm kind of glad they didn't do that.
Yeah,
but like a killer Terminator doll, I'm down with that. I just wish they would be more original, because why make the box look the exact same? Why can't you just do? I don't know. I kind of wish they would have just changed it up and not necessarily modernized it, but just use a different color scheme or something on the box. It literally is a Child's Play box that just says Buddy on it.
Yeah. And then they got the little Wi-Fi symbol in the corner.
Yeah, I saw that too. I thought that was kind of weird. So let's get into a next topic. This is something I'm kind of interested to talk about. And I wasn't originally interested in talking about this. Let's say Baldy Jack was going to make the next Friday the 13th movie, Jason movie, whatever you want to call it. Let's say you were in charge and you got to decide what kind of movie would you do? Would you maybe follow in the path of what Halloween has done and just retcon and connect from the original? What would you do?
I mean, if anything, try to make it like at least the original 80 films, but then don't quite modernize it. And you would want to make it like how the film always is. You want to make it a slasher, but then have some likable, decent characters here and there. And then maybe, just maybe, you try to, like, I don't know if you want to exactly have like a lore behind it, you know, because, you know, depending if people would want to, you know, if they like it or not. But I feel like it'd be like just the classic type of feel, just slightly. I mean, it's not quite like the 2009 reboot at all. So just pretty much like as I'm saying, it's like kind of like you're almost like your typical. So, I don't know.
Would you keep it simple and just kids in the woods? Would you do a backstory on Mrs. Voorhees and stuff like that? Like, let's talk about this. What we were bringing up, the idea of doing this movie of the childhood, the childhood of Jason with his parents, maybe bringing the dad in. Are you interested in something like that, or would you rather not know anything about?
I mean, it would be best if it was kept mysterious. Kind of like the same way for Michael Myers is that you don't want to know. You just think he's like a regular kid. You don't want to know like the story behind him. Like, oh, that's the reason why he kills people.
Right, right.
Kind of like what Rob Zombie did. With Michael Myers, where they try and say he came from like a dysfunctional family and like an abusive stepfather, or he was bullied in school and stuff like that. Like, you don't want to go down like routes like that. You don't want to explain something that people aren't interested in.
Right. Well, let me ask you this. Now that you kind of brought it up, I'm just curious. As far as Rob Zombie's Halloween went, controversial. Hardcore Halloween fans, man, they condemn you if you even say the guy's name, much less say you like the movie. But give it to me straight. Did you enjoy the Rob Zombie Halloween era?
Well, the first one, I could say it was decently done. Trying to keep at least its roots to how the originals were. Not quite, but with Rob Zombie's twist. But then when he came with the second one, that was full on his style. Looking like a music video and everything, and the white horse and all that stuff. That's where the second one, it's like really just frowned upon. But then with his first one, it's manageable. It's kind of like a decent movie to watch, I would say. And you don't have a hell of a lot of the white trash elements in the movie, because that's another thing that is his style. That
that's the zombie mark.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so back on the lawsuit, I got to ask you this too, because I did a couple of videos right when this went off, and the fans. We know a little bit more. Larry Zerner's come out. He's kind of talked about what's really going on, but fans were taken aside, and it seems like the majority was on Sean Cunningham's side, and people are pretty mad at Victor. Where do you stand at this point in time? Is there a right and a wrong to begin with?
Well, from the way I see it, is when this whole battle came across and the game was was dead, that they can't add content and this and that. Most people were blaming Victor Miller, like he was getting death threats and all this other stuff on Twitter, so then his family had to close down his Twitter. The way I see it is that Victor was just he was just doing a copyright act that he was he's allowed to do to claim his own work, when really Sean could have just paid him. And, it could have been done and said that there wouldn't be this whole lawsuit. Because I feel like the whole reason is Victor just kind of wanted, his proper paycheck for his credit. And Sean kind of just said, no, whiz off. And, now we're in this whole, battle issue.
Yeah. When I really stopped to think about it, originally, basically what I learned was, so they got this rule that after 30 years, a writer of a script can renegotiate his deals. Okay, I get that. I'm okay with that, because I understand why. Because let's say you wrote 2001: A Space Odyssey, and you thought nobody was ever going to see it, and this movie becomes this gigantic hit, and you get paid what, $1,000 back in the day for it, and then this movie makes all this money and T-shirts and all that stuff. As a screenwriter, I would say this isn't fair, and because of that clause, I'm down with that. Now that I understand that, I kind of get it. I really don't have a side, but my thing is this. People were saying, no, let it go back to Sean, blah, blah, blah. But my thing is, besides the video game, as far as content goes, I mean, Sean, what is he even interested in doing anything with the franchise or what? Because
I don't even know what's trying to go on, because we know that, like, Horror Inc. has this big involvement. And they're just saying, like, oh, we're planning on, making, projects, like you said, with the Hockey Mask Killer. And then you have the whole thing with LeBron James coming out, how he says he would like to produce a Friday the 13th film.
Right.
that would be interesting to see if he could produce it, because there is the production company called Vertigo, which is something that he's involved with.
Right.
And if you could take it to, say, Blumhouse or something, maybe they can get involved, because I know that if there was ever another film, you would have to have Vertigo and New Line Cinema in order to make this happen.
And that's another thing I think about. How many just how many hands are in the pie at this point? And I worry that we'll never get a movie ever again, and it's crazy.
Yeah.
But I'm just hoping the success of Halloween will get these guys in check and just say, let's figure this out. Let's settle out of court. Let's get Jason back. This was my idea. I said this in one of my videos too. I was like, okay, worst case scenario, Victor gets his little, he gets his little piece of his pie, and he has Friday the 13th. Does it surprise you that there hasn't already been a movie simply called Jason already?
Yeah, I know.
Like, that was my...
I mean, you do have, Jason X and stuff like that, because it's just named after him. That was when, Paramount owned, the title for Friday the 13th, because they just sold the character license to New Line Cinema. And then now it's kind of like, it seems like if New Line did a film, with whoever else, that who knows if it would be called Friday the 13th, depending on who has, the rights for it or license.
Yeah. But I figure that would be the logical way to go, assuming Horror Inc. and Sean get their hands on it. And I don't know. I would think that to bring them, personally, I have no interest in seeing Jason as a kid. I really don't want to. Because you would really have to make it a drama. You know what I mean? Like, it would have to become more of a drama with the parents and Jason just being bullied. I don't see any way to make it horror, because I would assume that I would assume Mrs. Voorhees would be a regular mom with an ugly kid, and the kid gets bullied, and it's that simple. And as far as Elias Voorhees goes, I just don't see the relativity to have him brought in. I mean, Jason's childhood, he was supposed to be that of a normal kid, from what I understand. So, I don't know. Personally, I think we should make a movie called Jason. Basically, ignore the remake, but we'll talk about the remake up here in a second. And let's just get the kids back in the woods. I really think it should be that simple. I think we should get kids in Crystal Lake.
Simple classic film. It's what we really need.
We can build it up just like part 2. Get kids around the campfire. No signal, no cell phone signal around this place. Obviously,
not being aware of what has happened there.
I mean, you should and I would really like to tribute that scene. Let's tribute that scene in part 2 where he says, "I'm going to give it to you guys straight about Jason," and let's get the movie from there. And let's keep it that simple. Forget the potato sack. Just have them have the hockey mask already. I just think the less said, the best said with this, and I think it would be a huge hit. As far as we had the big success with people really like seeing Nick Castle. Obviously, I think getting Kane Hodder in one more time would be an absolute. He's obviously got what it takes still. I mean, I saw the guy at Texas Frightmare last year, and not only did he look like he could beat me up, I mean, he looked like he could do it with his eyes closed. The guy is an easy 6'3". He's ripped, and he's in his 60s. The guy is in incredible shape. So that's my pitch. I think we should keep it simple. I think we should basically look. What did Sean and Victor say back in '79? Hey, Halloween's doing great. Let's rip it off.
Exactly.
Let's rip it off again. Let's rip it off again. Let's go back to basics. Let's make basically a hybrid part 2, part 3. Get the kids in the woods, and I think we should just make it a good movie. Let's see real quick, Baldy. We got a question right here. I'll let you answer this. This is from the Ghost of John Lennon. That's a really good username. Do you want a sequel to Jason X or another reboot or something similar to Halloween 2018? I just basically answered that myself, so go ahead, Baldy.
It's funny that Jason X is mentioned, because Jason X, Todd Farmer originally was planning to make it a trilogy.
Really? I never knew anything about this.
Yeah, he was planning on making Jason X a trilogy where the second film would take place where Uber Jason is, he lands in Earth 2, and he just slaughters people, you know, in this like new like high tech city in Earth 2. And then you have like Rowan and whatever the kid with the robot. I can't remember the guy's name. Where what they try to do is send well, they try to send a past Jason. So they try to get the pre-Uber Jason to fight Uber Jason.
All right, that's
so it's
already
kind of like
getting
a
wild.
Jason versus Jason thing, and it's like really weird. It's almost like some type of Back to the Future type of stuff where they're trying to get Jason to kill himself, where it's like he doesn't exist anymore, or it's just a really mind-boggling thing. It sounds interesting, but I think it's too far-fetched because the third one would end with kind of like where Jason X started off, where they were planning on moving Jason and doing more studies on him, and he never breaks out, and that's kind of where he spends the rest of his days, is being tested on, in some maximum security place. It's
Wow.
just like kind of like what did I just read?
Yeah.
I guess
It's interesting. It's interesting. I want to segue, and then 4K Cinema, I'm going to get your comment in here. I want to segue into something. It really is interesting. Basically, the only reason Jason X was truly made was to just keep Jason fresh on
to
people's
keep
minds,
them
right?
familiar. Yeah, it was just to keep them out there. But it's like, I mean, it's like people knew Freddy versus Jason was coming. Jason X wasn't really needed. I mean, then you could say the same thing with Wes Craven's New Nightmare, that we really didn't need that.
Right.
But I mean, you had that time gap where there was just nothing, and they just decided to throw something together for the time being before Freddy versus Jason came out, because being in developmental hell.
And I want to get into that next. That's a good segue, because look, how can they out of thin air just get a script ready for Jason X, more or less?
I know.
But when you think of Freddy versus Jason, I mean, anybody can figure out how those guys would get
how you can tie them together.
So for it to take 10 years, I mean, that really blows my mind. And quite frankly, the fact that it got made after 10 years is even crazier. Can you imagine, like, if let's say the film, let's say the film would have came. I think it worked out good, because horror kind of, I wouldn't say was back, but it was more so back on an upslope. We got the early 2000s coming in. But let's say Freddy vs. Jason would have came out around 96, 97. I mean, do you think it would have been as successful as it was? Because I think the movie made hundreds of millions of dollars.
Because I think it might be in like the top 10 horror films of all time. If I'm not quite sure, but don't quote me. It would make sense. I'm not entirely sure. It could be somewhere in the top 10. I'm not. It might be. I don't know if it's some. It might be below 10. I'm not entirely sure. But if it was made in the 90s, I think I would really wonder how that would have turned out. Like, it could have. Well, that's the problem, because with the 90s, you had Scream, and everything was trying to profit what Scream did. I mean, if you look at Halloween H2O, they have that really cliche feeling that Scream has, with the characters. Oh man,
Ghostface.
Yeah, because Scream was so profitable, and Halloween H2O, it has it has that similar vibe, like
absolutely.
Maybe the production is what I want to say is what it is, and the fact that they took Michael Myers out of Haddonfield and he's kind of like in a school,
Right. Well, Baldy, I could be wrong, but I think Kevin Williamson, who wrote Scream, wrote Halloween H2O.
Yeah. I think he did this. Someone did this. Whoever did the score for Scream did the score for H2O. So there's similarities in the score. For the film.
I joke around. I call it Scream H2O. And I have a problem with that film, and it's really that. I don't like Jamie Lee Curtis in the movie. Nothing inherently wrong with her. I definitely enjoyed her performance in
for H4O, basically.
It
was done so much better.
Yeah, but if FBJ would have came out in the 90s, it would have been such a total clash, because I mean, you can't. I don't know. Ironically, actors in those movies still had kind of smart alecky tone in the early 2000s, but I don't know. I think it happened the right way, coming out in 2000. I think it was 3, right?
2003.
But I don't know. It would have been wild. I think we would have had a better shot of having Kane play the part
Yeah,
if it would have came out.
that's kind of where it slightly suffers. Is that when people found out Kane was in the movie, they just started boycotting it.
Yeah. What was your thoughts on Kurzinger?
Well, I mean, this is how I sum up Kurzinger as Jason: is that he's basically a gothic hobo Frankenstein Jason.
I agree.
The way he's dressed is kind of like I would say, is kind of like a hobo almost. Like the clothes is all raggedy, but it's just kind of how weird how you went from the mutated look that we last saw, and then you
Right.
go from the jacket wearing Jason, which is an interesting look compared to the work shirt that he would usually wear.
Right.
I think the one thing that kind of bothered me with the way he played Jason was kind of like he was just a little bit too slow. Like he just moved. That's where the Frankenstein part comes in, is because he's freakishly tall. I believe he was like 6'8" or something. Like he was the tallest Jason.
Oh,
with
I'll
those
tell you this,
monstrous
Baldy.
boots that I believe it was like at least 3-4 inches within length for those boots.
Oh yeah.
I mean, look-wise, it's the look of Jason for that film. It's kind of growing on me as time goes on. Like I don't hate it as much.
I mean, it fits the movie. It fits the movie.
Yeah. I mean, the movie's fine. I like how the film plays out. That Freddy's been in hell for a long time. Elm Street's forgotten all about him, so he uses Jason to strike fear and bring the memory back. I think that's a simplistic way to do it. And, it ain't something that's complicated like some of the other scripts that that have been floating around that were written. Like what was one of the scripts? The whole thing about Freddy and like this cultish group called the Fredheads. I don't know if you've read
Redhead. Yeah. Ridiculous. Ridiculous.
Yeah.
But I'm not saying I wouldn't have. I'm not saying I wouldn't have watched it, but
yeah. So I mean, there was a lot of like interesting yet like really wacky scripts that were around. Funny enough, going on the topic of Jason X, the inspiration behind Uber Jason was one of the scripts for Freddy versus Jason that involves like the final ending of the film between the final act between Freddy and Jason taking place in a mall, and Jason walks by a Cineplex and he sees a cardboard cutout of a like robotic looking Jason advertising a film called, I think it was called Jason 2010 or something like that. So then what happened is the standee would come to life and fight Jason because of Freddy would be doing some really wicked stuff. Something, I forgot what the hell it was called. It was called something, I can't remember what it was. It was some weird, like, I can't remember. Something Nightmares. It was like this, I think it was called Waking Nightmares. I don't know. It was like a really weird term, and I don't know how that was described. It was really bizarre. But just visually, it was interesting.
Let's catch up right here. 4K Cinema HD made a comment. He says Victor Miller was never a horror fan. He lucked out when he wrote Friday the 13th, and it became successful. Sean asked him to write a script for a horror film. He did, and the rest is
Sean and Victor, they did a lot of like family-friendly type movies. Like
right.
I can't remember. There was some movie about orphans or something. It was like Annie or something like that. I can't remember what it was called off the top
Here
of my
Come
head.
the Tigers.
Or something like that, and some other thing was like a soccer movie or something like that, if I remember.
Well, here's what I want to say.
That's what it was called.
Here's what I want to say about that, Baldy. This is what you got to remember, man. This is why these lawsuits are sticky. If the movie was made today, look, there would never be any future stuff like this because there's no such thing as non-union movies anymore. So these independent films like this, I mean, there's literally no contracts. There's no contracts for any of this kind of stuff. So, all this stuff is so ambiguous, and now this is why the courts are just scratching their heads at all this. like if it was made today, everything is contracted. You sign this, you'll get this, you'll get this. And back in the day, dude, people made these independent people that made movies. I mean, they literally just got together, wrote something on paper, hired actors, and they made the film.
Yeah, they
And
just
these independent,
make it.
it was, you know, so that's why it's sticky, because Sean says, or his team, not Sean literally, but Sean said, look, Victor, you were not an employee. There's no paperwork. You just wrote a script and you were paid for the
Yeah, he's
script.
trying to say that he was a work for hire for the script when really, you know,
Yeah, so
he
that's what I'm
lost the
saying.
battle with it.
But there's no paperwork. There's no paperwork about any of this stuff. That's why it's so sticky, and that's why, you know. Okay, Spirit Halloween 66 says you guys are so lucky to have those Jimmy Horror Life does.
Oh yeah.
The Baldy, you've got the original Jason, and I've got my custom
yeah,
Roy
you got
Bone.
your Roy. You got Roy the boy, but well, mine is not quite original. Like it has, you know, the original, outfit and everything, but that's actually the model you have, the reboot model. But I just reworked it because the original model I had, it kind of it started to slowly like I think the audio got screwed up. Like I think the audio started to die on it or something. His arm would stop swinging because the one I had was the model I had. I got it back in 2008 at a Spirit Halloween, so it was a display model. So it was kind of just slowly dying.
Right.
So when I ended up getting
grabbing it, kids tugging
so
on it.
When I got the reboot one, I decided, you know what, the reboot one doesn't look all that great. So what I did is I stripped the reboot one down and then pretty much turned it into the Freddy versus Jason design.
Yeah, that one looks great.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad to do.
Yeah, Spirit Halloween 66 says, did you see the new life-size Michael at Spirit this year? And
yeah.
the new Chucky. I thought the new Michael, quite frankly, it looked like garbage, man. I don't know if that's yummy or not.
It looks wonky. The main problem with it is I noticed the first time I saw it when I walked into the store, the first thing I noticed is that his skin tone was the same color as the mask for his hands.
Please don't tell me that was Gemmy.
No. Oh, crap. I'm trying to remember the company that made this thing. What was it called? I don't know. Have you been to Halloween City? They have that shitty looking Pennywise that was 2017.
Yeah, they had Spirit Halloween 66 says it's not Jimmy.
There was a Michael Myers at Halloween City. There was that Pennywise. There was a Jason. Those are worse than the Myers that was at Spirit.
Yeah. Those are horrible. I know what you're talking about. I can't remember the company. Matter of fact, dude.
I know that the ones that were Halloween City, that was made by Morbid Enterprise, but the company that made the Michael Myers, I can't remember. I don't know I can't remember what it was called. Off the top of my head.
Spirit Halloween 6 says, I forgot to tell you that I just met Warrington Gillette on Friday the 13th, Part 2 at a haunted attraction about 2 weeks ago. That's interesting because he's kind of, hit himself under a rock.
Yeah, he's kind of like lurking under the darkness. Like he doesn't go to too many events anymore since the whole thing that broke out about Steve Dash is technically the Jason of Part 2 when really Warrington took the credit that Steve was supposed to have because all he did was the ending for the crashing through the window.
Right. That's actually a good topic to bring up because I saw an article probably about a week ago about somebody shared their the story of how everything went down when Steve Dash found out. So so Warrington apparently, dude, was not only taking credit, but he was signing pictures of the Jason Part 2 that was actually Dash. And so Dash comes in to the circuit now because he's done the book. The book comes out, and now he's ready to start getting involved
in stuff.
And so this whole time, Warrington was doing these interviews, and people were saying, "Hey, we read the book now. What's about this?" And Warrington was very defensive. He basically was like, "How dare you say I didn't do this? Yes, I did this. Yeah, blah blah." Taking credit, saying, "No, I was doing all this." And then when Dash comes in, somebody said there was actually a convention where both of them were there, and they had a meeting. Nobody has shown a picture of this, but there's claims that there's claims that they had an altercation, and Dash basically said, you know, you better stop signing pictures of me on there. And then once that happened, Morrington did an interview that was shared on a blog. It wasn't a live interview. Basically, it was saying, "I'm sorry for any confusion. It's been so long ago. I could be confused about this or that." So he crawfished, more or less. You know, he kind of. So I found that to be interesting, but I have not seen him. I go to Texas Frightmare once a year. Fabulous convention. They had last year. They had Kurzinger. They had Dash. They had Ted White. God bless him. I know he's not going to be on this earth a whole lot longer. He's getting old, but very nice man. And they had Tom Morga. Tom Morga was there, and Potter. So they had a lot of Jasons.
Yeah, pretty much all.
Oh, and excuse me. They had Graham, CJ. I met Graham. I met CJ. I met Steve Dash, and I met Ted White. I'm gonna tell you this though, Baldy. The biggest one is Ted White. Now he's old, but let me tell you, the guy is massive. I mean, when he stands up, you know, he legitimately was. Because, as a matter of fact, he had the picture for you to buy to get your autograph. I thought it was kind of just like, I don't know if I believe that, dude. He really was a stunt double for John Wayne, and he's bigger than Wayne. In the picture, Dash is bigger. I mean, not Dash. Ted White is bigger. He's in his 80s, but I tell you, man, like as far as just mass, he's a big guy. CJ Graham is still ripped. I mean, he is built like a Marine.
I saw him back in July, so.
Yeah, you did. Dude, he was great. I mean, when I met him, he stopped. He's how you doing? Is this your first time meeting me? I can't remember. And I was like, yeah, man. And I told him, I was like, you know, you're one of the only few Jasons here that still looks like they could whip everybody's ass.
It's funny.
And he laughed. He's like,
because whenever CJ like meets people or just fans in general, like I noticed how he'll always say like, "Hey, how's it going?" So I made like this meme out of him where everyone that was in the frame of the picture, I just edited his face over everyone, and it's just something stupid that I put together. I don't know if I've ever sent it to you, but it was kind of stupid. You know?
No. Yeah. It's funny, man. I'll get into this. I want to play a game with you up here in a minute, but before that, I want to talk about another topic. The NECA toy line. So tell me what we've got coming up from Friday the 13th.
So, as for Friday the 13th stuff from NECA, I mean, NECA has said countless times that we're getting, count them, 3 Ultimate Jasons for 2019. So far, you know, with the recent announcement, everyone knows we're getting an Ultimate Reboot Jason, you know, for the 10th anniversary. As far as I can tell from the pictures, yes, there's some new, you know, weapons and accessories that we're getting. But do you have the original reboot? Because I'm not quite sure. I forgot. I don't think you do. From that guy, the original reboot.
That, like, the toy line probably came out years ago.
Yeah, back in I think it was a year after the movie came out.
Oh, there's no way I got it.
Yeah. I noticed right off the bat that from the waist down, that he has the articulated legs. So from head to waist, it's the same old figure. So it's nothing new theoretically, but if you missed out on it, it's like, why not get it?
Right.
But I mean, either way, I'll end up getting it since, you know, I could probably display him with the sack head, you know.
All right, so Baldy, tell me what you think. So obviously, you're saying we've got the remake. I mean, excuse me, we got the reboot. Yeah, we have the series on, and we're supposed to have 2 more. Your thoughts and guess on what those could be?
So we do have a tease on one, and that was back in July, and that was I believe you've seen the picture where it's supposed to be Roy with the road flare. I don't know if you've ever seen that picture. Back in July on NECA's Twitter, they teased a photo of, you know, the hand holding the road flare. But funny enough, I figured out that the figure they used for the photo was, you know, the 2018 Michael Myers figure, but they just put together the road flare real quick for the teased photo. But we haven't had anything on the figure or any, you know, info since July.
So are you telling me we may be getting a paramedic Roy?
No, not paramedic. I mean Roy, like Pseudo Jason Roy.
Oh, have we not gotten one of those yet?
No,
oh.
I mean, we do have the retro, but I mean like 7-inch plastic form. We're probably gonna get one. I mean, especially if you have to see that tease photo on. If I could pull it up real quick, just to show.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Real quick. So here's what while you're doing that. As far as what the other one goes, Baldy, I'm telling you, man. I think it could be a Jason Takes Manhattan, and I'll
It's
tell you why.
possible.
I'll tell you
Yeah.
why,
So
Baldy. Go
yeah,
ahead. You got
definitely.
a picture?
The last one, the last figure, we don't know anything about it. So it could be, as everyone's been asking for years, a Part 7, from the ground up, not the old one just repainted like they did before. It's possible that we're getting either Jason Takes Manhattan or Part 8. I'm kind of hoping it's a Part 8 Jason because, it's a figure we've never had before. And it's kind of crazy.
I want to get into why. Do you have the picture pulled up?
Hold on, let me pull it up.
Okay, well, I'll say this while you're doing that. The reason I think it could be a Jason Takes Manhattan is, okay, personally, I like the retro style figures better than the Ultimates.
Really?
Because the artwork, it's original artwork, and then you can, and the reason I don't think they're going to make a retro style Jason Takes Manhattan is because I think it would be too intricate. Because,
Yeah.
look, here's the deal.
They would
The
have to
clothes
sculpt.
have to be,
Yeah, they would have to sculpt the all the underneath the undercarriage of his body.
yeah.
And
The clothes would be a mess.
Yeah.
It'd be very tedious. It'd be very, very tedious. And here's what I want to get at, Baldy. This is what's probably going to suck. Do you think they'll ever make a retro Jason? I do. And guess what? If they do, it'll be an SDCC exclusive.
It's possible.
On it. And then I'm going to have to pay $700 because obviously, Jason, look, I love it. I've got to have my Jason Takes Manhattan. But making it a ultimate would be plastic, so they can just sculpt. The paint wouldn't be bad. It'd be basically just shades of blue, and that would be good. Spirit Halloween 66 says he wants a Part 9 ultimate only because of the awesome looking Jason.
Yeah, I mean, I know someone else that wants a Ultimate Jason Goes to Hell figure. I mean, it's possible, but I mean, from it being like a movie like that, it could be like something we'll see like as one of the last Jasons. Like I see, from what I see, is NECA's trying to do the more simplistic Jasons.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'm looking at my figures right now. None of these figures have torn clothing or anything. It's got bloodstains on them. And I really thought about, it was just now that I really thought about that, and I'm like, why do I not have a Jason Takes Manhattan? And I said to myself, well, these people have to dress these dolls and stuff, and for them to have to not only cut the clothes, but cut them in such a way on every doll that it's perfect to where the blemishes on the skin would be. It'd be so tedious, so tedious. And as far as Jason Takes Manhattan go, I dare say that would be easier than doing a New Blood.
Than Part 7.
I think that was
Part 7.
I think,
yeah. Sure.
So, ultimate.
When it comes to Part 7, I mean, if you take a look, I know you have slideshows Part 7. I mean, pretty much head to toe, it's sculpted. What, rubber? I believe it's rubber that the sculpt is made out of underneath, like a plastic body, like G.I. Joe type figure.
Right.
Except for the biceps. That's the only thing that isn't like sculpted.
Yeah, it just
Still trying to find this picture, by the way.
Yeah. It'd be too tedious, But as far as the remake goes, I'm pretty pumped about that, the NECA Ultimate, because it's time that film gets its due. I don't think enough people give it, credit. It's not a man. I rewatched it not too long ago. It's really not a bad movie. Just him taking a prisoner is my only beef. I mean, I just don't see Jason holding anybody for a period of time.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing about the reboot is because they tried to be like, oh, maybe it's because he looks like his mother, and that's the reason why he's kind of like holding her hostage. But it's like,
I don't buy it.
Yeah,
I don't buy it.
It doesn't really work. Okay, I finally found the image. I was trying to see if I had it anywhere, but you can see it.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, we're getting a Roy. I mean, as without a doubt, we're getting a Roy.
Yeah. I mean, it's gonna happen. That's the thing. I'm surprised we haven't heard anything about it since when they teased it. I believe it was like, I think it was July 13th. Wasn't there Friday 13th back in July? I believe.
Yeah, and then we're not getting another Friday the 13th. I think till next year.
Yeah, I think it might be March.
Yeah.
It might be March. Let me check. Just to be sure. No, not March. What the hell's the next Friday 13th? That's what I want to know.
I think 2017, we had like 4 of them, like back to back almost. It was like, oh, here's another
one. Funny story. I believe it was back in 2017. For shits and giggles, I dressed up as Jason and went to the local mall on Friday 13th.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was funny because the look on some people's faces is like, what the fuck is going? They're like, what the fuck's going on? Or, yeah, you have some people that are just like, oh yeah, it's Jason, and then But it was funny because I was being, followed by security and everything because they probably thought I was going to steal something or do something. But I was just, there walking around and stuff. It was kind of funny though.
Okay, so I want to do something with you, Baldy. I want to play a quick rating from a scale of 1 to 5.
All right.
I want to go through the Jasons with you. I'm going to go through the movies with you, and anybody in the comment section can please join in. I want to go from the first movie up to the reboot, and you're going to give 1 to 5 stars for each film and a quick reason why. Let's start with the original.
So the original, if anything, I would say. I mean, could I put it like a 1 to 10 maybe, or just maybe 1? I don't know.
That's fine. That's fine. Go 1 to 10.
Okay. So with the original, I would probably give it a 6.5. I mean, it's
6.5 out of 10.
Yeah, the original, it's a classic, but at the end of the day, it's slow paced. Yes, you have the makeup effects by Tom Savini and everything. But it's just, the whole reveal of Pamela Voorhees as the killer, yeah, it kind of pays off towards the end. But the fact that she wasn't really in the movie, and you're like, it's like, the point of the movie, it's a whodunit, right? But
right.
It's like, when she shows up, it's like, is she going to help Alice? It's like, oh no, she's the killer. Okay. I mean, it is what it is. I mean, it started the franchise. It's the film. Yeah. Okay. So.
6.5 out of 10. Let's go.
I'll say 6.5 out of 10.
Let's go to part 2. Go ahead.
Okay. As for part 2, this is where you get introduced to Jason. Being the killer.
Right.
Everyone would say that, oh, why is Jason all of a sudden a grown adult in this movie? You do realize that it's a 5-year gap. Jason's roughly, 17, 18 in this film. So it would work. The idea of him living in the woods, that works. So, living in this little shack, eating, whatever animals he finds and whatnot. As for I think part 2, I would definitely rank it above, maybe a 7. I'd say probably a 7.
7 out of 10 for part 2. I'm down with that. Honestly, man, my only beef with part 2 is that opening sequence. I don't know. They winged it. Apparently, I think Adrian King even admits there really wasn't a script. And personally, I think
put it together. They went along with it.
Yeah. Personally, I think it shows. I think it shows. That it was winged. I think they should have taken a little bit more time on that.
Yeah.
That's really my only beef. It's really my only beef with part 2 was just that opening sequence could have done a little bit better.
Yeah, because the story to why she was supposed to be in the entire film supposedly, but the reason behind that was the fact that she had like some type of like stalker or something, so they kind of just had her involved with the movie, but then just kind of like, what, we'll just kill you off and they'll be done instead. Which kind of sucks.
Yeah.
To be honest.
All right, Baldy. Let's move on to 1982, part 3.
Yeah.
In 3D, go ahead.
Most people could say that part 3 might be their favorite, but I'll say that it's my 3rd favorite. Funny enough, because it's part 3. Part 3, I want to say it does step it up just a little bit, but then if you're not watching it in 3D, you always have things, up close to the screen and stuff, and it's kind of pointless,
Right. So do you think that
characters, with Shelly, you have, what is it, Chuck? Is that the stoner dude, I believe?
Probably so.
Yeah. And, I mean, shit, it's the movie where Jason dons the hockey mask, but
that's what Spirit Halloween 6/6 was saying. He gave it 8 out of 10. He goes, hockey mask comes. So
yeah. I mean, that's the thing everyone has it up there for us. I mean, it's like any steps on the dock and whatnot.
Right.
I mean, with part 3, maybe let's say maybe a 7.9.
7.9.
How about them apples?
I like that.
Okay.
Okay, moving on to arguably the fan
4.
favorite of the franchise, the final chapter. Go ahead.
Oh yeah,
Let it rip.
I mean, you already know that final chapter is my favorite. The reason why I like this movie so much is because, I mean, you have Crispin Glover, you have Corey Feldman, you just have like a likable cast of characters that you enjoy seeing them, but you don't quite want them to die.
Yeah.
And then you have Ted White as Jason, of course, which, as I have said, is the most brutalist and relentless Jason that we've probably may ever see. Fun fact: when I went to go see Halloween 2018 in theaters, for some reason the way that James Jude Courtney played Michael Myers reminded me a lot like how Ted White would play Jason. Like just that brutalness and like that relentless, just the force that he presents on screen.
Right.
I mean, the way that Jason's defeated in final chapter, I will say. I mean, for him to be defeated by a kid, it's the fact that, Jason. I mean, because Jason's not, he's not all the way up there. He has disabilities, right? For him to think that he's pretty much looking at a younger version of himself and to be defeated by a kid, I mean, it's not the worst way he's been defeated. I mean, wait a minute. I know the worst way that he could be defeated is. But it's not even okay. Hold on, I'll get to that later. Sorry.
Okay, save it. I think I know where you're going. Save it
later. But yeah, as for final chapter, I will say, if anything, I would put that at least a 9 out of 10 because that's the thing about part 4 and part 6 is that I kind of put them on such an even scale because they're like the top 2 for me.
Okay. So I'll agree with you, man. Personally, call me lenient. I honestly give 4 a 10 out of 10. To me, there's not a sequence in this movie that I cringe at. There's not a sequence in this movie that I yawn at. I just think it's perfect. I thought Zito really
enjoyable all the way through, pretty much.
Despite the issues, obviously, if you've read the Crystal Lake the complete history, the Crystal Lake Memories book, you know that there was a problem on production, but it doesn't show.
Yeah.
Yeah,
because I remember the whole thing about the character that's in the raft, because the water that she was in was like really cold, and then Ted White almost walked off set and said he would quit, but then Joseph.
And I give a lot of
okay.
I give a lot of credit to Ted for that. I respect Ted for that. I don't blame Zito. Look, you gotta understand. Zito has people breathing down his neck to get a movie done, and I just think it's just the nature of cheap filmmaking. It's cheap and fast. These Friday the 13th movies, they're expected to be spat out for the producers.
Yeah, you had a
going to a McDonald's fast food line. You get in, you want it. So I think that's the issue. But I agree. I do think to me, it's the best in the series. It's not my favorite, but as far as if I'm going to show somebody a Friday the 13th film just for them to check out, I'm showing them for So. Okay, let's move on to the controversial Friday the 13th Part 5, A New Beginning. Go ahead.
Okay. The thing with Part 5 is that, yes, it's, Jason's not in it. We all know that. If you didn't know that, why are you here? Yeah. So with Roy being the killer, it hits just kind of like how, the original does, where, they try to pull it almost like a whodunit.
Right.
But then they try to lead you on the path that thinking maybe Jason's actually back. But then after a while, you realize that ain't Jason because, the skin tone. That's the one thing that threw me off, back when I watched, Part 5 originally, was the fact that Jason's skin tone didn't, it was a lot like a lighter skin tone.
Right. It was interesting.
The whole wardrobe change,
Yeah. When I got to tell you, Baldy, when I was going through the series for the very first time, I didn't think about it. It didn't, it didn't register. You know, it didn't
Yeah.
register whatsoever, and that's probably just because maybe because I wasn't a hardcore horror fan
Right.
yet, and I wasn't programmed, you know, to think about why is his mask different? Why is his jump?
He just got something on. He wanted a different mask. Yeah. I mean, you could say that the original mask could have ended up as evidence, you know, after the whole crime scene. So that's how he could have gotten a new mask, you know. I mean, Part 5, as it is, you know, I think Part 5 is enjoyable for what it is. It's, you know, it's got that sleazy, you know, feeling to it, you know, with the director being, you know, previously, you know, a porn director and everything. As for Roy being the killer, it is what it is. You know, of course, his motive being, you know, for his, you know, his son dying, you know, was it Joey? Joey, yeah.
The Kenny Bar kid.
Well, if that's it, just forget it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what do you give it out of 10?
Well, I mean, Part 5, I'd probably give it. I mean, I do say it's a decent movie, so I'll probably just give it like a 5. You know, 5 out of 10, I would say. It is what it is for Part 5.
Okay. I think I'd go a little bit higher because I try to forget about the whole Roy thing. I know it's hard. Like, I try to forget about it, and I say to myself, does it deliver? As far as the kills go, I appreciate that, you know, we haven't gotten to clever kills yet in Friday the 13th.
They're still kind of somewhat simplistic. But keep in mind with Part 5 that it feels like a Friday the 13th movie, you know, all the way throughout.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That was my next thing to say. Favorite kill in the whole movie is it's the boy that stutters, and he loses out with the girl. She goes to bed. He goes upstairs, gets the girl, the techno girl. He wants to talk to her. She blows him off. So he goes up the room, and then you get the shot of Roy holding the butcher knife.
Yeah,
He's holding it, and then it's so simple. But then he strikes, and as simple as it is, man, I feel it every time I watch it. And sometimes the simpler, the better. And to me, that's a great sequence. I'd probably give it a 6 out of 10. Just a little, you know, it's got its problems, absolutely. But I think it delivers. You know, I really think it delivers as a Friday the 13th film. You know, at the end of the day. So, and I like it. I like the music. I like the music's a little bit different.
Definitely the music is a lot different that Harry Manfredini did. If you noticed when watching, like, say, Part 3, there is, like, you know, some slightly reused stuff from, like, say, Part 2 or 1. I'm trying to think, like in particular, like say the theme for the original. You know, when Chris Higgins is telling the story to Rick about, you know, how some guy attacked her in the woods.
Yeah.
The original theme song is playing during that scene.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, so Part 5, I would say I'd give it a 5.
All right, buddy. Let's move on to which Count Von Strange says is his favorite Friday the 13th. That's going to be Friday the 13th, Part 6. Jason has risen. Any hardcore fan knows why I said that. So.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, Baldy.
Part 6 is probably, I want to say, my second. I would say that Part 6 is my second favorite. I mean, C.J. Graham as Jason in this movie, it's like the Rambo of Jason, if that makes sense.
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah. And you do have, what the hell? I'm trying to think. Thomas Matthews. Yeah, you have Thomas Matthews as, you know, Tommy Jarvis, which I think it works perfectly.
Fabulous actor. Fabulous
actor. The first and only film to feature, you know, a cast of, well, not cast, but, you know, a campground with actual kids.
Right.
That's the thing about Part 6 is it almost feels like a PG-13 movie if you think about it, because you don't have any nudity in this film. The kills are, you know, starting to become, you know, unique and creative. You have the triple head decapitation. You do have the kill that you consider the goofy kill, you know, with the tree, you know, with the face, you know, the paintballer guy that gets his arm ripped off, and you have the tree where his head hits the tree, and you have, like, the little carving in the tree. As for, Jason's demise in this film is probably one of the more respective ones, I want to say, because, he originally, drowned. So what other way to finally put him in this resting place than where he, originally, died?
Yeah, absolutely.
So with part 6, I feel like I have it up there with the final chapter, so I would also give that one a 9 out of 10.
I gotta tell you, man, I want to like 6 more than I do, and I can't exactly tell you why it's not my favorite.
Is
It's
it like
certainly,
the dark humor? Is that what you think?
it might be. I tell you, man, because look, I'm a diehard Cooper fan. I love Cooper, obviously, so having him in the soundtrack is great. I thought McClellan's a fabulous director.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess it is the humor. I'm very
It's
outspoken
probably
about
the humor is what you're probably thinking about that
probably
changes
so.
it for you.
And it's not like I thought they shouldn't do it. He makes perfect sense when McClellan says, "Look, this is the 6th film. We've got to have someone."
Yeah, I
I
gotta change it up
completely
a little
agree.
bit.
I totally agree. You know what it is? I just think, I have a problem. I'm very open about this. Don't like the way 6 looks. To me, he looks like a gardener. He's got his
Oh,
bucket
okay,
belt,
yeah,
and
I know.
I
I
don't like it.
forget when you say this. Yeah, because of the gloves and the utility belt. I see. I mean,
I
yeah,
don't.
it's kind of like you had the traditional look of Jason, with his his work shirt and pants. Just that it's like has more like he has the gloves. I feel like they just tried to add more to his look. But I mean,
Yeah,
I think I could see why, because you don't like the gloves. Yeah, the gloves are a little odd. But then yet again, because his hands are decayed, and he's kind of like this is kind of where he is premiered as a zombie. But I feel that more away with Part 7 though, where he's kind of
right.
more zombified than anything else.
Yeah. I think another thing that gets me too is like from what I can gather, this is where we really start to have the kink in the chain as far as Jason's physical continuity.
Yeah.
Um, Obviously, 5 gets a pass because it's not Jason.
Well, I mean, you do
Um,
have the Dream Jason and everything.
and
That's
even
pretty much really similar to Part 4.
and that's what I was going to get at. I was going to bring that up because even though it's a dream sequence in 5, they went the extra mile. Obviously, it's a different person, going to shape the character differently, understandable. But as
Yeah.
far as this cloth and clothing and style of clothing, it it looks right.
Yeah.
Um,
The only thing
I don't
different about
understand.
it is the mask, because
Right,
you know how like in the dream sequence that the straps are on the inside of the mask and not for the outside. You ever notice
right,
that? Yeah.
right. I think that's another thing. I'm so much more lenient on everything else, but I put a lot of scrutiny on Friday the 13th when it comes to this. Just I don't know why, not because I want to be a jerk, just because I love the movie so much,
Mm-hmm.
and it irks me that a mass murderer, who should have blood all on his clothes, be ripped up, be old and worn, how his shirt and pants can come out looking ironed, and his green shirt just looks so good. Like
Yeah, it kind of
it's
yeah yeah. Now that you mention it, because you do have the daylight scenes, with Dan Bradley, which was the original guy who played Jason
right.
in Part 6 before being revoked because the McLaughlin was like saying how he's too big and kind of meaty because Jason's been buried and decaying for quite a few years.
Right.
Um, but yeah, I mean, like I said, as for Part 6, I would give it a 9 out of 10. Pretty much the
Yeah.
same with Part 4. I kind of treat them very similar because I just have them high up there. Those are
Yeah.
the two that I enjoy the most, I would say.
All right. I think for me, I'd give it a 6. I think that's
Okay.
fair for me. So let's move on to what I actually have playing right now. Let's go to
So
Friday the 13th, Part 7, The New Blood.
okay, so the New Blood originally, was intended to be Freddy versus Jason. Although you have wannabe Carrie in this movie with Tina Shepard, I mean, it's interesting to see. Like, yes, you still take place in in Camp Crystal Lake. You still have the campgrounds. This is kind of not the last time we see it, but last time for a while. Um, I mean, that's the thing about Part 7 is Part 7 was meant to be gorier, but then, the MPAA kind of shut down a lot of the gore, with crushing the one guy's head to the size of a walnut. You had, the sleeping bag kill that was originally supposed to be, I think it was like 5, I think it might have been 6 or 7 slams to the tree instead of, originally just now what it is 1.
Right.
Yeah, I with Part 7, I'll say that I enjoy Part 7, but that's the thing that just draws back for me is the fact that it's just kind of tame.
I can agree with that. It's not my favorite.
Yeah, it's what I would say is with Part 7, like just the way that the gore is, it's almost as much as similar to Jason Takes Manhattan, how those kills are done. Like it's very similar to how things are cut down. Like you don't see much, you don't get much. It's like a split second, and it doesn't have too big of a payoff.
Right. Let's talk about the look of Jason. Are you a fan? Was it too much?
I mean, what I'll say about Part 7 is it may be the best look for Jason, but it's still funny to note that it's supposed to be every injury, every nook and cranny that he has endured. But the fact that for the hockey mask that you don't have the bullet hole from Part 6 that was in the hockey mask, you know how he got shot in the head.
Absolutely. Once again,
that wasn't on the mask in Part 7. Fun fact: the boat propeller that for the cheek of the hockey mask was actually flipped. So in Part 7, it's the wrong side.
Interesting.
Yeah.
How did that happen? How did they let that happen?
I don't know how. I have no idea. That's kind of interesting.
I assume you've watched the documentary
on screen. I'm not sure. I don't get how you could say that that his cheek being all screwed up from the boat propeller could be what is it, the left side? I believe it's his left side, I should say.
Let me pull this down real quick for you. Here you go. This is my beauty, my Part 7 bust, and this is his left side.
His left
it may
side,
be right on the camera, but let's see. Let me take this off. I really enjoy the look that they gave him on this. It's very creepy. As a matter of fact, as far as underfaces go, I think it's one of the most haunting looks of Jason. Just because he's got expression. He looks extremely angry.
Yeah, that's the thing is Kane delivered with the expression with what he could do in the makeup.
Yeah. One of my biggest complaints with Jason's faces, I've always had.
They just changed drastically. That's the thing.
I don't like the. Hold on, let me put this up. I really don't like the fact that Ted White's under mask, he just looks kind of stupid.
Yeah. You can see his eyebrows. You can see his eyebrows throughout the film.
Yeah. So that always irked me. But I want to mention a name to you that's related to Part 7 and what comes to mind when you think about this name. If you're being a hardcore fan, I assume you'll know. Barbara Sachs. Does that ring a bell?
Not quite.
Barbara Sachs was the notorious associate producer on this film that did not get along with any of the staff and hated horror, and she basically was just a thorn in John Buechler's side the whole movie.
Wait, so, okay. Now that you mention that, so that's probably the reason behind Tina's father not being the zombified version.
Exactly. That's exactly right.
Okay.
If I could change one thing in history, if I can go Time Cop, for instance, I would make sure this woman was not involved with this movie, because I would love to have seen the effects for this and what they would have done. There's a famous picture. There's a famous picture of Tina's dad and Kane.
Yeah, I know that picture. Yeah.
That's what he should have looked like. We're talking about a man who should have been eaten by fish, nibbled on day after day.
For like a good, what, 10 years?
Yeah.
Yeah, like it's
So
kind of weird how he just like pops up, like he's like just like, oh, I'm just just bent down here like Pennywise, like under the water.
yeah.
Doesn't make any sense. What am I
I'll
thinking?
add. Yeah.
Um,
I'll add something to part 7 that I'd like to say. As far as I'll let you give your ranking out of 10. I'll give you mine first.
okay.
One thing I do like about 7 is I believe it was filmed in the South. I think it was filmed somewhere in Georgia. I could be
Yeah, it
wrong.
was filmed in Georgia.
And being a Southerner, I can, as strange as it sounds, I can look. I have it on right now. Right now, actually, Tina's dad just came up and they're putting the kids in the ambulance. I can tell those are Southern woods, and that feels like home to me. So I've always liked the way Part 7 looks. I really
Yeah,
do. I can tell it's not New Jersey woods. I can tell it's not Connecticut. They think Connecticut was part 2, and you can tell it just there's a
yeah,
difference in the atmosphere in the forests from the north and the south. And I always enjoyed the way Part 7 was.
yeah. Because
Um,
part two was in Connecticut. We all know the original was in Jersey. Part three, I believe part three was in California, right? Because then they
I think
they
so. I
built the
think
whole
so.
set. They built the set for the building. They made the fake little lake. Um, but that was the crazy thing about part three about how the house was. Well, I don't know if you heard that story about the house for part three, that it was burned down because some fans visited it and they stayed overnight and they thought they could make a fire using the fireplace, but it's not a real, it's a film staged house. So the house burned
Right.
down.
That pisses me off.
Yeah,
I got my brother throw down 47. Jason goes straight to hell. That's funny. But as far as part 7 goes, man, I'm honestly going to give it a 6.7, 6.7, 6.8 out of 10. I like it. It's hokey in the sense that you got a telekinetic girl, but I mean, we're already in a world where we got a zombie.
yeah,
You gotta let go of realism in a sense, and it grows on me. There's times where I don't like 7. There's times where I like it a lot. There's times where I think it's okay. But overall, as far as just quality, and I think John Bugler delivers on that. I think it's a pretty damn good entry.
oh yeah.
So I'm gonna give that.
Yeah. Part seven, I'll give it a 6.3 out of 10.
Okay. All right, Baldy. Well, we're going to move on to obviously you can see behind me. It's a movie of interest to me. One of my favorite Friday the 13th movies, and one of my favorite horror movies of all time. I have no shame. That's going to be Jason. Excuse me, Friday the 13th Part 8. Jason Takes Manhattan. Take it away.
Well, that's the thing with Jason Dickman. The title is, that's the thing about the title, because it feels like a cash grab almost. I mean, originally, the film was supposed to be filmed entirely, in New York, but then, they couldn't fund it. They didn't have the budget for it, so it was flipped where they're on the cruise ship, just as long as they intended originally with, New York.
Right.
Seeing Jason on the boat, you know, it's a different setting, and I think that's where you could do more movies with Jason. Is that if you put him in a different setting, you can make it interesting at least. Um, One thing that I would like to note about Jason Takes Manhattan, when he's in New York, people would always ask me or ask whoever, why doesn't Jason kill any of the people in New York? Just the random people. It's like that's because they're no inconvenience to him. They're not getting in his way, and he's not pursuing them. He's pursuing what is it, Rennie and Sean? Yeah, Rennie and
Done.
Sean.
So would you
Um,
say, real quick, would you say that once Jason locks in on said target, he stops at nothing to get said target?
exactly.
Okay.
Um, like my only problem with Jason Takes Manhattan is the weird apparitions that Rennie has throughout the film of seeing kid Jason, and he just changes so much. Like he goes from being this regular looking kid with hair to somewhat simple deformed Jason that's bald, but it's kind of weird like how it just changes drastically, and it's kind of like feels like something that would happen in Nightmare on Elm Street, like it just kind
Absolutely.
of shows
Yeah.
up weirdly. Um, I mean, I love Part 8, but there's just certain things that kind of hold it back just a little bit. Like I said, with the weird kid Jason just popping up randomly.
Right.
The ending, with you could just say that Rennie is, imagining that she's seeing Jason revert back to a kid. Like you could say that Jason's like still has his his form match, that he's kind of like, really goopy looking, kind of, if you wanted to put it that way. Um, Part 8 tried to have, unique kills,
Right.
Um,
Put this down while you're my beauty.
I mean, it looks well done, that's for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, who did this bust in particular?
That's the Devil's Latex.
Okay, Devil's Latex. All right. I'm familiar.
But go ahead. Go ahead. Continue on.
Oh yeah. Because with Jason Takes Manhattan, the kill, like I said, with the kills, like they're very similar to Part 7. Like, they're kind of tame. Like, like I said with the MPAA, they cut stuff down, especially for the time frame that, they don't want kids seeing this movie. Although, funny enough, there is some, parents taking their kids to go see, Friday 13th Part 8.
Right.
But, I mean, overall, with, Jason Takes Manhattan, I would say it's a decent film, but it is semi-weak, if you understand what I mean.
Absolutely.
As an entry, yeah. For a rating, I would say maybe a 5.7. Maybe a 5.7 out of 10.
And that's a general. I would call that a fairly general consensus of the film. I'll try to keep this short. Look, man, here's the deal. Jason Takes Manhattan is one of those movies to me where it's more than like the movie that I love. It's everything, the element about the film. And I'm sure you probably would agree with this. You just didn't mention it. First off, you got a great opening song
the
hits me in the feels.
The backstory.
It's the first time I watched it. I was instantly lost in this world that they were creating, this New York atmosphere, and the song. When you hear that song, Baldy, like I don't know if you're like me, man. As soon as I hear that intro come into the darkest side of the night, I'm panning down Times Square, and I mean every time it hits me, and
that is true.
It's just a great movie. Yeah, when I watch that intro, it almost feels like it's like going down memory lane of the whole franchise, and we've led to this point. And it's kind of like it's almost like a love letter to me in the way that it's playing out, and the way the song sounds. It's like a nod to the franchise. And there's an element to the film that I love that comes with the soundtrack of the movie. Obviously, the poster behind me. I mean, I think it's arguably the best Friday the 13th poster. I mean, as far as go ahead.
The original poster is, it was. I mean, I think the original poster was nice and all, with him slashing through the I Heart New York poster, but it was kind of simplistic compared to this poster, which it's a lot more, in depth.
Yeah, and honestly, that's another thing I was to mention. I love them both. I like this one slightly a little bit more because it's kind of like a metaphor for the movie. Jason's literally taking Manhattan.
He's hovering above it.
It's that other element that I get from this movie. I love this movie so much. It's because of these things. It's because you got a fantastic soundtrack from Fred Mullen. You got a great opening song that was made for the movie. Yeah. And you got a fabulous poster. Another thing I really like, Baldy, is arguably the best trailer ever for one of the Friday the 13th movies is the trailer.
I mean, it is a trailer.
It's fabulous. It tricks you. I can see that playing out in the theater. How fun that would have been to see that trailer because you had no idea what was going on.
Oh yeah, it's funny. The Jason Takes Manhattan trailer. It's just okay, some guy standing in front of Manhattan, and you have Frank Sinatra playing in the background. Funny that you mentioned that. I don't know if you've ever seen Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3's trailer. They do that same type of thing with their trailer. Where it's Leatherface
it just slipped in my mind.
Pond. Yeah, Leatherface standing like near a pond, and it's kind of like you have like this voiceover about like something legends or forever or something like that, and then like this hand comes up out of the water, flinging the golden chainsaw into the air, and gets struck by lightning, and Leatherface is like, "Whoa!" It's like that's an interesting trailer, but you kind of ripped off Jason Takes Manhattan a little bit, where you kind of like just leave it like you don't know what's coming type of thing.
Right. So I think that really affects my way of loving it because it's more of an element than just the bare bones of the movie. It's the whole, as far as what you're saying, I definitely agree with you. Like, look, man, there's issues. There's clearly issues.
Yeah, there's minor issues, I'd say.
It
ain't big
Jason
issues.
having hair in one scene as a kid, then not having hair in this other scene. I don't know what they were doing. I assume Rob Heaton had his back against the
Yeah,
wall.
Rob
And
Freddy.
he had
I
to
think
get
his
this movie
son
done.
was the one kid with the hair. I think that's who played the kid Jason in the one scene. I think
Probably
it was his son. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. You know, and it's just bad editing, to say the least. But you got to remember this, Baldy. I have a soft spot for this movie because of the deficit of what Rob Heaton had. I mean, let's face it. Look, Rob Heaton had a fantastic script. He wanted to do great.
Yeah, he wanted to do something big with it. But I mean, this is the 8th installment. The idea of taking Jason out of Camp Crystal Lake was a good idea because it's like, how much can you? I mean, what else can you do with him being at the camp?
Right.
So I mean, it made sense, theoretically, just let's put him somewhere else.
Yeah. And another thing that comes to mind is the boat. Rob Heaton had a fabulous boat picked out, and then he lost the boat. So this guy's already, he's got two major things against him. He's got to rewrite a script. He's got to basically lie to his audience, which I'm sure, obviously, we know now is not his choice. He lost his boat. He's going to regroup. He gets a much smaller boat, which he claims he liked more, but I think he probably just had to think that way. I mean, I'm sure the first one great.
Yeah, even though the boat was smaller, it's just you use trick photography to make it look like it's bigger.
Absolutely.
I mean, I can clearly tell that that's what they tried to do with the Lazarus. That's the name of Lazarus.
Yeah.
So, rating-wise, I'd say, maybe a 5 out of 10.
Yeah. The few of the things I want to bring up is the things that I think benefit from this movie was Rob has said this himself, and it definitely shows. He more or less gave the attitude and the approach of Jason basically to Kane. He relied on Kane a lot to how to play this scene out. I think there was actually sequences where he had an idea of how Jason would do this and handle a scene. And I think Kane actually said, no, Jason wouldn't do this.
Yeah,
Jason
the whole idea of kicking a dog.
Yeah,
no. Yeah, it's not something the character would do.
Yeah. So I think moments like that, I think that element actually, what's up, James, self-standard? I think that actually helps the movie. Look, as far as the closing of the movie goes, I like the closing. I get it. It's supposed to be like, Rob was really trying to end the series, and I think that's what I think he said this way. Does it? Could it have been filmed a little bit better, and could they have made Jason look like maybe a little bit more like the original?
Right.
I think no. I don't think Rob was a gigantic Friday the 13th fan, and I don't think he did. I don't think he had due diligence on making sure, Jason looked a certain way. Obviously, the hockey mask had to be different. It got destroyed.
Yeah. I mean, the hockey mask is nice in that movie, though, to be honest.
I love the Part 8 hockey mask. It's kind of got. And look, let's talk about the look of Jason.
The chevrons are like I said, like the way the chevrons are, they're like facing a different way. Like they're shaped differently. If you know what I mean.
Yeah. Look, Jason looks fantastic in Part 8. I think he looks like the swamp monster, and I love it. I really do. Look, his shirt being tucked in, okay, that's a little. You think his shirt would have came untucked, and it's all cut up, but his shirt's tucked in, and whatever. But I think Kane really sold that look, and the way he portrayed the character with that look was perfect. I mean, he was heavy breathing, and then it was great. So I think the best thing about the movie is absolutely Jason. The look of Jason is just fantastic. So, but obviously, I forgive a lot of the problems. I think if I'm going to be fair and if I'm going to be honest, I'll give Jason Statham a 7 out of 10, and I'm probably still being a little too lenient on it, but I mean, it's my favorite. It's my favorite in the franchise.
Yeah, I understand. I mean, the movie is pretty great, but I mean, there's the slight flaws about it, but hey, the flaws aren't as big as the next film we're going to talk about. Let's put it that way.
But you know what? That's going to be interesting because look, man. If 5 years ago I had a very strict way of thinking on Jason Goes to Hell, and I'm almost the exact opposite today in 2018. So let's get to it. Jason Goes to Hell.
That's the thing about with Jason Goes to Hell. I mean, the way the movie starts off, it like Adam Marcus said, is it makes perfect sense that this guy has committed roughly 100 and something murders at this point, and the FBI is going to step in and take him out. So the idea of the body hopping thing and slightly hinting towards Jason being a deadite, which I mean, if you're saying Jason's a deadite, it'd have to be like some type of different version,
Right, right.
And I never realized that the dagger that sends him to hell. The thing I never realized about the dagger is it's kind of like, it's pretty similar to the Gadarian dagger, from Evil Dead. It's pretty similar. I just noticed that recently too. It's kind of weird.
It is.
Yeah.
And that's the book that they found in the house.
Yeah, because he borrowed it from. I think he might have borrowed it from Sam Raimi. I'm not entirely sure. I think that's the thing about the movie is I kind of like how the with K&B effects, how they did a lot of the gore and it's just the body hopping thing. It's just kind of a little weird, but I mean, hey, it is different, although it's really similar to this movie called The Hidden, which is about I don't know if you've seen it probably.
I haven't seen it. I know it was directed by the great Jack Shoulder from Nightmare 2.
Oh wow.
But
yeah,
I've never seen it.
It's like the same formula, really. That it's like a body hopping parasite type thing,
But apparently, I don't think Marcus knew about the movie.
No, yeah, he did not know, which is kind of interesting how he did not know that. But it's kind of interesting to see to this day how he he defends that film still, and I respect him for that he still defends it, and the whole idea of that documentary that they're trying to put together called The Dark Heart of Jason Voorhees. I'm pretty sure you might have heard about that.
Yes, I know about it. About it.
Because I think he was planning that they were trying to get that released for the 25th anniversary, which was this year, but it seems like the documentary might come out sometime next year. But I mean, I kind of like the atmosphere for this movie, especially with Harry Manfredini's demonic, kind of soundtrack.
Yeah, frantic kind of just.
Yeah. I mean, the look of Jason was something I kind of wished we would have saw more in the movie, although we only see him about maybe 12 minutes or so.
Right.
Some people, a lot of people, I know there's some people out there that hate his look in the movie, the bubbly, brain-looking head that he has. I kind of like that mutated look that he has, because he's kind of scary looking,
Right.
It's like someone you wouldn't want to stand next to type of thing.
Right.
Or even be in a room with.
Yeah.
I mean, I really do enjoy the ending. I mean, the ending was put together really well. This movie pretty much set it up, the whole Freddy versus Jason, of course. I mean, I think out of all of the movies, this one, I would, rating-wise, if anything, I would probably say maybe a 2.5 out of 10.
Really?
Yeah. I mean,
so what's the main component that brings you down to a 2?
It's just the whole. There's so many continuity errors, like the whole possession. I can understand the idea of having a half sister, but then having a niece and I can't even think of the word for that, because he has a half sister, a niece, and a. I can't think of the term. I don't know if you know what I'm trying to say.
I know.
Yeah. But yeah, it's those type of things that are just kind of what kind of puts it down for me. But yeah, I mean, I still do kind of enjoy the movie. Like if I'm on to watch it, watch it. But it ain't like one of the movies that I'd put up there. It's kind of really low on my list, just because of that whole ideal.
Absolutely. It's funny, Baldy, because look, man, when I first watched it, well, I say when I first watched it, it was probably, I'll be honest with you, it was probably the first Friday the 13th movie I ever saw as a kid, to be honest with you. It was probably on TV a lot. When I was growing up around the late '90s. I think it was probably rotating pretty heavy, on late night,
Yeah.
television. But when I really got back into watching the movies, and I watched it, I hated it. I mean, I absolutely hated it. I just thought it was garbage.
I mean, like, I don't hate the movie, but it's just like there's just certain aspects that I just don't put it that much up there. I mean, it's pretty understandable, for what the movie is. Because one time I was listening to like an interview with Adam Marcus, it was like kind of like a podcast almost. Like he was saying like how he wanted to change it up, because the first 7 movies, have Jason and the hockey mask and everything. I understand that, but you do realize that it's a slasher. It's kind of like it has a similar formula. It's just that you don't have Jason in it.
Right.
You have like a typical looking guy, like has similar movements and stuff, but it's like okay,
Yeah.
it's just that movie. I mean, I can give the movie one thing. The acting in the movie is great. That's one thing I will say when it comes to this movie. I think the acting's nice. I mean, kind of wish we had more of Creighton Duke in the movie, though. That's one thing for sure.
Yeah.
I keep forgetting his name, though.
John D. LeMay?
No, I'm talking about Creighton Duke.
Oh.
Yeah, John D. LeMay is, Steven.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's still kind of funny how he was in the TV series, though, and they had him involved with this.
Yeah. What I was going to say, though, man, was, like I said, when I first got back into watching these movies around 2010, 2009, I hated Goes to Hell. But I got to be honest with you, man, as the years went by, man, I watch it now and I laugh my ass off at it. I just have a great time with it. But I think I know why. Mm-hmm. I think I watch it as just this complete standalone, wacky movie.
It has that standalone vibe to it,
and it doesn't feel like a Friday the 13th movie to me whatsoever. It really doesn't. And I think that's why I enjoy it so much now, is because I know when I'm in the mood to watch Jason Goes to Hell. You know what I mean? So like, when I'm in that mood and I put it on, it delivers on every level that I want it to. And for that, man, I got to be honest with you, I'm going to bump it up pretty high to a 6 out of 10 because at this point in time, I get it for what it is. And I don't see it as a Friday the 13th movie. And that's probably why I like it so much, because I know how to, I don't know, I know how to approach the film and I know how to take it. And I just get a kick out of it. I enjoy John D. LeMay in the movie a lot. I just thought he did a good job.
I mean, it's kind of like the first time he had like a nerdy character as, the role,
And I think it's refreshing. And that's another reason there's certain times I'm in the mood for something like that. And I think that element as well. You got to remember, Baldy, we've got some really creepy scenes in this. For instance,
the whole shaving scene.
It's bizarre, and it's so funny. When I first watched this movie, I think to myself, the guy who directed this movie's got to be like a really creepy, deranged guy. Then I see this guy who kind of looks like me almost a little bit, just kind of leather jacket, black hair, and this guy literally says, the reason I did the homoerotic shaving scene is because I knew that people would ask me about the homoerotic. And then I said, okay, so this guy's he's just a goofy guy who just did it just to be funny. And I think that element makes me like the movie even more, because I like Adam. I think Adam's a good guy. I think he's an intelligent guy. And you can tell this was definitely a movie made by a kid who didn't know what the hell he was doing.
True.
Obviously,
he had a fun time making it. That's for sure. You definitely can tell that.
I get it. I think I just get the film, and I know, like I said, I watch Jason Goes to Hell when I'm really in the mood for it, and it delivers on what I want it to do. So I don't know. I'm not saying that everybody's going to have an epiphany, so to speak, with the movie and just say, okay, I understand. But for me, I did. I really did have more or less an epiphany with Jason Goes to Hell. So for me, I'm going to rank it high. I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. But now it's going to get interesting, because this is going to be my lowest ranked movie on Jason X.
Okay, I'm gonna get this one easily. So that's the thing with Jason X. it's an early 2000s film. That I mean, the acting in Jason X is. I mean, this is the worst acting out of all the films. Uh, the idea of Jason in space is, of course, where most franchises go to die. I mean, you had that kind of with Hellraiser, but then yet again, Hellraiser, that was like what, the fourth film, I think. It was like, was it Hellraiser Bloodline? But anyway, a lot of people did not like how Jason looked in this movie, with the bent-in eye sockets and nose for the hockey mask. But I kind of enjoy that different design in the hockey mask. We had the traditional design, but this is that movie where it just changes for once. His attire, it's very simplistic. He has like a grayish work shirt, pants, and then he has a straight jacket. Which is when they had him restrained. So he has all the chains and shackles and stuff. But yeah, it's just this movie it's kind of like wonky. It's like it's kind of like the movie where it's like you don't want to take it too seriously. I mean, you could say the same with Jason Goes to Hell, where you don't take it too seriously. But yeah, that's the thing with Jason X. It isn't really a good movie. It's kind of, as you're saying, it is kind of one of the lower ones, because I don't have much to really say about Jason X in particular. Like I said, the acting is just I mean, Uber Jason was the only really cool thing about the movie, and we didn't get much out of him.
Right.
Yeah. Fun fact: because Jason Goes to Hell, Todd Farmer ended up stating one time, when after Jason was killed in Jason X, and he was all in chunks and bits and stuff. He said the reason for why the whole possession thing, it could have happened in this movie. It could have, but of course, since no one was around the body, and the fact that I don't know what the technology that was used to put them back together. I can't remember what it was called.
Kind of no, not cryogenics. That's when they froze him, right?
What was it? I can't remember. Yeah,
I know what you're talking about. I know what you're talking about, because they did it with the kid's hand, right? He chops off his hand.
Yeah.
I know what you mean. I know the people know what you mean.
Yeah, but yeah, that's the thing about this movie. Is it's just it has like that time stamp on it. I mean, as most things go.
Right.
It just has like that really silliness to it, to the film. It's really silly. I mean, as for Jason X, I mean, I'd probably either rank it the same, or if not a little bit lower than Jason Goes to Hell.
Okay.
For that reason. I mean, shit, I don't have much to say about it, because it's just like I don't. They're like, what is there to talk about, really?
Yeah, I'll say this. I think it's got two good scenes. I really do. I think the two good scenes to me are simply Cronenberg's death is
and
great.
the liquid nitrogen.
Other than that, Baldy, look, like you said, I think you capped it off good. It's timestamped, and it's not a good timestamp to me.
It really
wasn't a good era for movies, honestly.
No.
Not for me.
I feel like the movie was unnecessary, really.
Yeah.
To be honest.
And I think one good thing about Jason Goes to Hell, to bring it back up, was it was around a good timestamp. Just that early '90s. I like that era. I do. I really like that era. But yeah, honestly, just those two scenes for me. Other than that, I don't like much of anything. And I don't think Kane really had a good,
I mean,
Kane didn't really have a good, what do you call it?
He just was like there. He just he just did what he did. It was just kind of there,
He didn't have a good canvas to paint on, so to speak. He couldn't really, just let loose. So yeah, it's just a bad movie. I'll honestly give it 3 out of 10, and I think I'm being maybe a little too fair.
I would say maybe like a 2.5. I'd probably put it around there, just a little bit below Hell, I would say.
Yeah. Okay, this is a movie I've never really talked about. I did a review on it, but it was so long ago, and I really don't remember what I said. Let's get to Freddy versus Jason.
So, Freddy versus Jason, um, like I said, the idea is perfect that, they're both in hell. Elm Street is totally forgotten about, Freddy, so he's pretty much non-existent. He can't do what he wants to do. So, he's been in hell for, I believe it's like, 3 years they've been in hell. So, he finds Jason and he's like, you know what, I'm going to use him to strike fear once again in Elm Street. That way, he makes his big comeback. But then, he wants Jason to be done and over with, but Jason won't stop doing what he does best. And then that's how they kind of clash. So,
Right.
I mean, it works. Like I said with the Jason, Ken Kersinger, it is what it is. He plays Jason the way he played him. You had Ronnie Yu who directed the movie, which, for a fun fact, he did Bride of Chucky.
Right.
I don't think he was the right choice for a director because since he didn't know jack diddly squat about either of the franchises, I think it would have been better if they got a director who at least, was familiar, or at least had some knowledge, between the two franchises. But
right.
I mean, I still think it's a good movie, though. It could, I don't know. It could have been better at least if they had Kane, but I think that was the funny thing about Freddy versus Jason, that you had I can't remember the character's name, where she calls Freddy a faggot in a sweater.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the one thing, like I said, in horror movies, is what you never want to do is make fun of the killer. The other thing that's kind of I take with a grain of salt is the fact that Freddy and Jason bleed so much in this movie. And that was Ronnie Yu's idea. He's like, more blood, they used gallons and gallons of blood for this movie too.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you just wanted to see Freddy and Jason fight, I mean, there you go. That's the movie.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with that. I don't really have much to say. I just agree. I mean, if you just want to see him fight, I don't really have a problem one way or the other. Nothing inherently concrete that I dislike about it. I don't know. I just wish, I don't know.
You wish it was probably better, or it could have been, done.
I do, Baldy, but I really can't tell you what I would have done differently. I really don't know. And that's probably, I'm just very indifferent about the movie.
Yeah, I mean, the movie is what it is. I think it was decent, but it wasn't as. I mean, there was a lot of excitement, of course, around this movie coming out. Could have been somewhat better, but yet again, like you said, it's I don't know what else better you could really necessarily do with it besides maybe Kane being Jason, but it would have been interesting if that happened. But of course, still funny how Ken got the role of playing Jason, but it wasn't his first time playing Jason, because he was a stunt double and Jason
in Manhattan.
Yeah. So I always thought that was funny.
I always relish when I see him get hit by that car.
Yeah. Well, I mean, or Kane throwing him over the counter into the
mirror,
but.
And it's very evident, if you go back and you see Ken dressed up as Jason and takes Manhattan, and when he gets hit by the car, it's very evident because when you see him get hit and he goes to the side, that Jason is significantly taller.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
No.
When he steps out of the subway, not the subway, but when he steps out of the train car, and Sean,
pulls the emergency brake,
throws himself into him, and he gets electrocuted by the railroad. That was Ken Kersinger as well.
That's right. That was.
Yeah, you could just tell by the height and the difference.
Yeah. So that's it's really that's interesting, and kind of crazy when you really stop and think about it. Wow, this guy who played the stunt, on Chase Manhattan actually ended up being Jason. How many years later? So, but honestly, I think I'd give Freddy vs. Jason a 6, 5.5, 6 out of 10.
Yeah, I'd say a 5.5.
Yeah. Spirit Halloween likes it a lot. He gave it an 8 out of 10.
Well, I mean, I know there's a lot of people that actually like this movie.
Sure.
Surprisingly enough, this, this look of Jason here you know, is like the mainstream Jason that some people are familiar with.
Right.
But then now, of
Yeah,
course,
that's the one that's typically on T-shirts and stuff.
yeah. But now, of course, since you had the video game, some people are more familiar with Part 3, you know, since he's been like the cover for the game.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, Freddy vs. Jason. I mean, it could have been done slightly better, but hey, it works.
Yep.
Like I said, 5.5.
So here we go. We're at the last film, the 2009 remake.
All right. So the reboot. That's the thing. The thing about the reboot is, I think it was done. You know, it was done respectively well. Yes, it was modernized, which some people may not like that. You know, Jason himself has that, you know, survivalist feeling, you know, like he's, and once again, you know, this Jason has a jacket.
Right.
You know, that's one thing I like to note about this Jason in particular is the sack head is, you know, a lot scarier than, you know, how Part 2 was. You know, it's like this really jagged looking, you know, I don't even know what it is exactly. Like, it looks like something he put together himself, kind of, like, I want to say.
Yeah.
Like, let's see. Kills they are what they are. The cast, I mean, you had Jared Padalecki in the movie, which, you know, okay. But I still think it was kind of funny how the year this movie came out, you had My Bloody Valentine, the remake for that, but then you had the other guy, you know, from what the hell's the name of that show that Jared Padalecki's in? I can't think of what the show that he's in with the other guy that happened to be in My Bloody Valentine remake.
I'm not sure I remember either.
Yeah, I can't remember the name of the TV show that they were in together, but it's just funny that opening weekend, you had Friday 13th, you know, February 13th, and then you had My Bloody Valentine the day after, you know. I mean, when I saw this movie, when I saw it in theaters, you know, hard to believe, almost 10 years ago, I mean, I had a blast. I enjoyed the movie. Although, like, you could say, like, you know, drug references wise and nudity was kind of heavily done. And I thought it was funny that there was a blog about this, how Michael Bay, when he watched this in theaters, he walked out on it because of that. You know, which is kind of
really
hilarious. Yeah, I thought that was kind of hilarious. And then you have a one-liner in this movie, which is kind of cheesy. You know, Jason, say hello to your mommy in hell. That's kind of like Texas Chainsaw 2013, like, do your thing, cuz.
Yeah.
It's kind of like one of those type of thing. It's kind of like the cringeworthy line of the movie, I would say.
Yeah.
I mean, some people hate the movie, like I said. Some people hate it, some people like it, some people really like it. I mean, since I saw it in theaters, you know, I hold it to some value. I thought it was a great movie. Not that it was, you know, not that it's like anywhere on par, you know, where, you know, the original, you know, series is. But I definitely think it's it lives up to it. That's what I'll say.
It was Supernatural the show you're thinking of?
Oh, Supernatural, yeah.
Yeah, Count Von Strange said Supernatural in the comments.
Yeah, Supernatural. That's what it is. I couldn't think of it off the top of my head.
So what do you give it on the ranking?
Ranking? I'd probably give it a 6.
Okay,
Probably
that sounds
6
fair.
out of 10.
You know, my biggest problem, we talked about this before we went live. Look, my only issue with the film really is this. I think it has a good opening.
Part.
I think it has a strong opening. I think the kills in the opening before the credits hit are the best kills in the movie.
Oh, yeah, the guy that gets the machete to the head.
I really like the guy who's looking for the pot. He's looking for the weed plants. I think that's funny. Right. I think it's cool. Honestly, man, like, look, I just don't buy him ever taking a prisoner. Yeah. And it's not necessarily the fact that,
you know, it looks like his mother.
Look,
like, that's the only reason, really. But it doesn't really work too well. It's just
Look, one could argue this. Well, hey, what about Part 2? But look, Part 2's ending was played out perfectly. There was no prisoner. It was mind control of Jason himself. It wasn't Jason taking the woman, holding her hostage. Jason's in control. There is no
Yes.
mind control in this. Jason is in control of this woman. He's got her locked up. So the approach to part 2 with Jason Mothers, that was beautiful. I loved it. But Jason
Yes.
actually just holding the girl, I don't buy it. I'm sorry, I just don't buy it.
Yeah.
And
I mean, neither do
it
I.
really hurts the film for me. I mean, it really
Yeah.
hurts the film for me.
That's like
Uh,
that's like the main thing that it can be said about this movie.
and this was written by hardcore fans too, and that's what's kind of surprises
Yeah.
me.
Fun fact. I think it's Mark. I think it's Mark Damian and I don't know if I think I might be tying their names together. I might be mixing it up. I don't know if it's Mark Damian and something Swift. I think they were the same people who wrote Freddy vs. Jason. Funny enough.
Right. I just honestly though, man, that's gonna bump the movie down to a 5 out of 10 for me. Look, I don't dislike it. I enjoy it, but that really irks me, and it I don't know. It doesn't tarnish it for me. Obviously, I still think it's a well-made movie. I think the look of Jason's fantastic. I thought Derek was fabulous as Jason.
Mm-hmm.
The only issue I had with Derek was he didn't seem to really do anything to trademark himself as the character, and that may not necessarily be his fault. I just think he wasn't given enough leeway to kind of put his spin on it. Like, look, obviously Kane has his spin with the heavy breathing.
Yeah.
Ted White was just, Ted White took the approach like just a creepy serial killer. Just,
Yeah.
I'm going to get you and I'm not going to stop. The way he moved, he wasn't scared to move. I think everybody was able to put a pretty good bit of their own, their own personality in the character, but I didn't feel a whole lot of that from Derek.
Yeah.
But there's really not a whole lot of screen time of Jason in this movie, so that could be part of it. And there's not a lot of long panning shots with him. You don't get to see him from far back moving around.
I mean, you do have like the distance shot when you have the chick in the lake, and
In the lake,
you can see him
I
like,
know, but he's just standing there,
woods and stuff.
Yeah, but
Um,
he wasn't bad. He was menacing. Don't get me wrong.
yeah.
But he's not my issue. I mean, I have no issue with Derek.
I think
It's
he did a
really just
swell
the prisoner
job.
scene. It really just boils down to that prisoner scene. I can't get over it. So
Spirit Halloween 666 made a good point that that this movie has like that combo, of part like 1 through 3. Like it kind of
absolutely, the potato sack and
like,
everything.
yeah.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
they definitely.
The look of Jason, like his face in this movie, it reminds me of a lot like a combination of like part 3 and 4 a little bit. And, like he has like the.
But it's kind of got a little bit of Freddy versus Jason because he's wearing
the jacket.
The coat. Yeah.
Yeah, the jacket. Yeah.
So, that's really my only issue, man. And I mean, I'll give it a 6. I won't give it a 5. Like, look, it's a good movie. It's a good movie.
Basically the same rating. Okay.
Look, I just can't get over the prisoner scene. I really can't.
Yeah.
Call me petty. It irks me. It irks me too much. I just don't think. I mean, if Kane Hodder did the movie, I think the movie would have been different. I think he would have said Jason doesn't take a prisoner.
Yeah. I don't know. That's like I said, that's the only thing that really is a main issue with the movie. Other than that, I think everything else is done pretty well.
Well, Baldy, that's it, man. We've been going for a pretty good while. I'm getting kind of burnt out. That was
almost 2 hours.
Yeah. That was pretty awesome, man. Do you have any closing thoughts? Any final thoughts on what NECA should do, or what the next movie should be if we get one?
Closing thoughts. Like I said, NECA should really make a Jason Takes Manhattan figure when they can and if they can, but make it sooner, please.
Right.
Film-wise, it's really hard to say. With the rights battle. If they're gonna end up making a movie, make it like kind of traditional in a way, but not like too far out there. But it's funny that it's funny how in the beginning you talk about where you say we're gonna talk about the game, but I mean when it comes to the game, I'll say that I don't think we'll ever get to see Uber Jason in the game. I just don't.
I don't think so either.
Like since Horror Inc. would be the rights holder, and Gun Media since they're the publisher of the game, they would have to go to them to see if they could do, put it out or not. But it doesn't seem like they could. If anything, the only way I could see them putting it out is if they charge people like $5 for the skin.
Right.
Grendel will probably never happen because it wasn't even finished. The map wasn't finished, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
They had a lot of stuff probably planned for this game. Like, there's kill packs, for instance, for part 8 with the fire axe, and you had part 6 with the fence post. Like, there was kill packs that they were planning on releasing and stuff like that. And it's like all of the stuff that they put together for nothing, and it's like,
right.
Damn.
Yeah. It's a shame, man. It's a blessing, but at the same time, it just sucks that, we just never got. I feel bad for the people that put money into it, because.
Oh yeah, because the game was funded for, and a lot of people just feel like they're ripped off. And
absolutely, absolutely. So I don't know. I feel for the people, but I'm still glad it happened.
The game it's a fantastic game, although it has its bugs and its problems with it.
It was really bad in the beginning.
Yeah.
You had people being able to hide in cabins, and like there was, I think there was a spot in the barn where you could get the counselor in, and then for a while Jason couldn't touch the person.
Yeah, there was major stuff. For example, I don't know how this happened to me before. So for instance, I was in the lake, on the Crystal Lake map, right? I forgot who I was as a character. I was like swimming up against the wall of the lake, and Jason was in the water trying to get me. He's like pressing X to drown me. But what happened is my character shot up out of the water and is being choked, but floating above the water.
Oh goodness, I know it.
The weirdest thing I've ever seen. I know I have a video of it somewhere on YouTube, but it was weird.
Yeah.
To be honest, I was laughing my ass off though because it just happened, and I was like, "What the hell is this?"
Yeah.
But I did let him kill me though, so I just kind of got to land, and then it was still kind of funny.
My last question to you: so you do think there's strong chance we could be getting a ultimate Jason Takes Manhattan?
Hopefully.
I think it would be easier to make that than a Part 7 ultimate.
I think it'd be easier than Part 7. Because, Part 7 is so complex. You have, like, all, you have all, pretty much, he's exposed from pretty much head to toe. So they'd have to, that's probably the most, cost-worthy figure out of all of them. Especially with, Jason Takes Manhattan, since he only has a few rips and tears here and there, and his skin's kind of, grayish. Yeah. So it wouldn't be too hard to do, I think. I don't think it would be.
Look, let's talk accessories real quick before we go. We could have, obviously, the fire axe. We could have the glass shard.
Oh, yeah.
We could have
the harpoon gun.
The harpoon gun would be a good one. Maybe even the sauna coal, the big sauna rod.
Yeah.
We could get the toxic waste mask that's affected by the toxic.
That'd be actually kind of cool. You know how the Dream Jason came with the the poster mask. What if we get the poster mask? So you have the red.
That'd be. Look at this, Baldy.
Yeah, like what if? Like what if you get that as an accessory with the figure?
I'd die.
The best way to display it, I would say.
Oh, I'd die. So. Yeah, so let's just hope, man. We need to get some Jason Takes Manhattan respect up in this house. So
yeah, I really hope that's the case. Because out of all the figures, that's the only one that has never seen the day of light, which is pretty crazy.
It's a shame. I have a feeling we're getting there. We're getting there. So
yeah, NECA has stated, or should I say, Randy Folk has stated that they plan on executing each and every one of the Jasons. Maybe we can get a coroner. Maybe we can get a corner, Jason.
Spirit Halloween 666. Spirit Halloween 66 said maybe a barrel with the toxic wastewater.
Oh yeah, that'd actually be kind of
cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
get the the canister. Because
that'd be awesome.
Oh, I almost forgot. You left out one thing. The flying V guitar.
Oh my goodness! Oh, that'd be perfect.
Yeah.
Oh goodness, man! I can't. Then have to do more than one figure to have all this cool stuff.
I know.
So, Or let's do big packaging like the Nightmare on Elm Street 2 was.
Oh
That
yeah,
was
where
a
it's
big
like
deal.
with. I feel like the
Yeah, it was
dogs
big.
that came with them, which is kind of like, I don't know if I don't want to say unnecessary, but it was just so like random. But I mean, the randomest, the most random accessories could be the best thing, you know.
Absolutely. So, all right, guys, I want to say thank y'all for joining in with us. This was a intense discussion on the Friday the 13th franchise. Probably my second favorite horror franchise by the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. Just always have loved Friday the 13th movies. There's nothing like them.
So you would say
Go ahead.
you put Friday 13th above Halloween?
Oh, absolutely. Halloween's my third favorite. Well, I say, third favorite. There's really the big three. As great as Texas Chainsaw is, it's really the big three, Yeah, and I love them all. Don't get me wrong. Nightmare on Elm Street is my number one. We'd have to do a whole other episode on that soon. Friday the 13th is number two, and I tell you, man, it's really a 1A, because it's right below. It's right below Friday the 13th. It's right below Nightmare on Elm Street. They're close. Nightmare on Elm Street just hits me a little bit more in the right areas as far as the movies affecting me outside of the movies themselves, with the great soundtracks and the great elements and the great posters. So
that's the crazy thing about Friday 13th, that it's the one franchise that has had the same composer for almost every film when you think about it.
It's very interesting. Absolutely. Rocky Voorhees, I appreciate you joining in, brother. We're just about to wrap it up. We've been going hard. We're burnt out. We discussed everything. Please be sure to go back and watch this. We had a long discussion where we ranked all the Friday the 13th. We talked about what NECA could be bringing us. We talked about a video game. We talked about the lawsuit. We talked about the possibilities of such another Friday the 13th. What we would do movie wise. So. We'll be bringing Baldy back. Maybe we could do a Nightmare on Elm Street episode special. I think that would be great. So, thank you guys for watching. This is Christian Hanna Horror with special guest Baldy Jack, and there he goes. He's putting his Friday the 13th mask on for y'all. That's cool boy. All right, ladies and gentlemen, y'all have a great night. We love y'all, and we'll see you next time.